So Mahogany is being frog marched back to the barracks in a planner man catcher. Other plans that we had cooking was, I believe it was Nath, sent some indepts to get back in touch with Dwath and their gang to get loaded up with magical arrows to take down this large harmonium-themed golem in the center of this particular square of the Great Bazaar. Liberation and Riot were doing what in the immediate aftermath of the huge melee?
Riot was going somewhere until she changed back out of being a rat.
Okay.
Liberation is ditching the harmonium armor of Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon's armor.
Yeah, unless someone can think of a better use for it.
What is the plan via Mahogany in the immediate future between the two of you? I guess the three of you, if you reconvene with Nath.
I think we were. One thing we were going to try was just seeing if we could catch up with them, if we could intercept them. But then we realized that they had too much of a head start.
Yeah.
They're marching through the streets towards the barracks. If you have some way to fly or have a portal to get to the other side of the city, you could...
I mean, McDohl could probably make it, but just him.
And then, as you can see, I'm not very good. I'm not very useful in non-combat capacity.
All my high-level spell slots are gone, so I can't polymorph or Dimension Door or anything.
Yeah, I don't have anything that would do that.
All right, so do you at least show up to Mahogany's execution?
Oh, did they get him to the barracks? I figured that he would, at some point, he would just like how long does it take for them to get from the Great Bazaar to the barracks?
We never did codify an exact how long does it take to get from there to there, but
yeah. I mean, yeah,
I would
you don't have to say it takes.
I would say less than an hour, considering the two wards are kind of right next to each other, and they're two of the more well-patrolled areas of Sigil, especially once you get into the ladies' ward. Nobody's gonna get in the way of a harmonium patrol.
Hey, you know what? I had another idea.
Uh-huh.
Instead of ditching Joss Whedon's armor, you think maybe Joss Whedon might have some pull to get Mahogany out of this nonsense?
What's your deception score like?
Garbage compared to you.
Does anybody know anything about Joss Whedon at the Harmonium? Most particularly, what race is he?
Well, I look like a human when I put the thing on.
Yeah, but that seeming spell was gone. Has been gone for a while.
No, this was outside your seeming spell.
Why do you look like a human?
It's full armor.
Liberation will put all the buckles and stuff back into place, throw the helmet back on.
And when he pulls the helmet over his head, you don't recognize him as Liberation anymore. You recognize him as, I guess, to Riot's eyes, just another random hardhead. She has no idea who this Josh Wegman is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was disguised as that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see if it works for me.
Start pulling the armor off, passing it to Riot.
Okay.
I'll put the armor on.
And it doesn't. It just looks like Riot in ill-fitting, ridiculous-looking harmonium armor.
So it's me then, huh?
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, Nath and I can come with... Is Nath here?
Yeah.
Okay. Nath and I can come with you, I guess. Just in case you need our help, but I don't know what we can really do. I'm kind of tapped on spells.
Mahogany.
What do you know
Yeah.
about? Oh, okay.
What is your demeanor being in Harmonium custody?
I'm mostly just going along with it because my thinking is if I act out constantly, they're just going to watch me more.
Okay. When the Harmonium asks you probing questions, for example, what's your occupation, if any, in Sigil? What's your stake in the Great Bazaar? Those kind of questions. How do you respond to them? Dismissively or honestly?
Well, I lie.
Okay. Make me a deception check.
Oh, my thinking is they're going to know I'm lying, but
They will if you fail this deception check, but might as well go ahead and roll it.
I don't know, man. Maybe you should look at Mahogany's character sheet.
I mean, unless you're lying so obviously.
Well, 10.
Like you shall know, I'm the Mister of Pain. A 10? No, that's not going to do it. So when they realize that you're not being forthcoming and honest with your answers, the leader of this patrol, who I don't think we gave him a name, and I don't really want to, because I don't want to accidentally create the new Lois Vesterhoff. He tells you pretty sincerely. He says, we already have the leaders of this in-depth insurrection in custody. And I know that you're not going to believe me, but we're trying very, very hard to make sure that they and you are not executed.
That's not what your man over there says.
Meaning who?
The one of the 3 people who caught me said he was going to enjoy watching me hang.
That's true. How much time do the rest of you take before you head towards the barracks to seek out Mahogany?
I don't know if I should, because I have no disguise spells left at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be a liberation show.
So how long does Liberation wait?
Probably just long enough to get all the armor back into place.
Okay. Is Nath going with you?
No.
Nath actually is a member of this faction, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also deeply paranoid and doesn't particularly, he expects that you can do this better than he can.
Look, fella. Any help you'd be able to give, I'd be more than appreciative, because this is way out of my wheelhouse.
And what's Nath's response to that?
The only reason I would be going along is to make sure you don't do any unnecessary violence to anyone involved. But at this point, I'm pretty sure I trust you at least.
McDohl was saying these dudes would be assassinated already.
Sidelong glance towards Riot on that one.
I wish I trusted myself, honestly.
I don't have anything that'll really help, though. Well, alright, here. I'll cast True Seeing on you. That's my last high-level spell slot.
So what do I get from True Seeing?
True Sight to a range of 120 feet. This will last an hour. It'll let you see anything invisible. Might help.
Okay.
Invisible, ethereal, actually it pierces most illusions too, so.
Okay. Alright, once he gives me that, I'll say, wish me luck. And head off.
But I kind of don't feel like you need it, because I feel like Mahogany is more able than Serenity was to get himself out of this.
Well, I'm the backup plan then.
Mahogany. Are you wearing faction colors at all at the moment?
Nodal?
Did he mute himself?
I shouldn't be muted. Is
No,
that working?
You're not now.
Okay.
That's bizarre. Yeah, I usually am.
Okay.
Back 1 second, I gotta get the bubbly.
After you kind of stonewall them with ridiculous lies, the two Harmonium who don't want to see you hang have a conversation. They're speaking aloud, but it's a language that you don't understand. And you see the second in command, every few words, looking back at you. You see his eyes falling on your cipher sigil. And they bring you to the barracks. And for the time being, they bring you to a holding cell inside the barracks.
Yeah.
Kind of an impromptu holding cell. There's not actually any kind of prison or jail area here. But some of these, like guards' rooms next to the entrance over in this area, have been repurposed for this sort of eventuality.
Yeah.
They affix your hands behind your back with manacles. And upon coming into the room, one of the three of them leaves, comes back in a couple minutes with what looks like a black leather dog collar.
Rude.
And he affixes it to your neck. And only at that point do they let go with the man catcher. The leader of the patrol tells you that the collar has the same sort of protections that the man catcher did, but will be less uncomfortable, not quite as stabbing you in the chest.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
He says that there will be 4 guardsmen outside of the room, and they will call on you within the hour. That somebody very important is going to want to speak with you. And then he leaves you alone in this little holding cell. As for what's in the room, not much other than a bench along one wall. There was an outward-facing window, but it has since been bricked up.
Wait, bricked up?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there was once an outward-facing window here, but can't really have an outward-facing window in a holding cell. Liberation, when you arrive at the barracks, what is your plan?
My plan is to try and locate Mahogany by giving him the description of get the description of the party, kind of like I was doing before, and looking to see if any of them was captured.
Okay. Make a deception check at advantage.
Gonna need it.
What is your deception score?
2.
Nice.
Not bad. That's a 19.
19? It's definitely not bad. That's really good, actually. 19 is a high number. The highest number, some might say. Arriving at the barracks, you get a lot of salutes from the rank and file. A lot of people who know Joss Wegnan by reputation, mainly. And you manage to bluff your way through some hardhead formalities, and it's very easy to identify where Mahogany currently is. His face is very well known. He's one of the people involved with the 400 souls last month. And yeah, he was just brought in with a planner man catcher. One of the patrols brought him back from the raid at the bazaar. You're also inundated with questions about how the raid went on your end. How do you
Could
answer
have
those
gone
kind of
better.
questions?
Could have gone better.
And that's met with some concern. Do you embellish on it at all? They don't press you if you don't.
Not really, no. No, I'll just say could have gone better.
So what is it that you want with Mahogany?
First, I'm going to ask that these guards be dismissed for a time, so I speak with them privately.
And that's not possible. They have orders from above. They give you their condolences. Very sorry, sir, but the guys you're talking to don't have rank on you, but the people that they have their orders from do.
Do I know anything about the other VIP that might be wanting to come with scene within the hour?
Are you asking them, or are you asking if Liberation knows?
I'm asking them if they know.
And they kind of look back and forth awkwardly, and then back at you. And one of them says that Factal Saren himself has asked to see this particular prisoner.
Stoneface? All right, I'm going to do what I can to try and maybe be a fly on that wall in that meeting.
Okay. What's your plan to do that?
Going to explain my own orders, the bullshit orders that I've been making up on the fly as I've been going along. That they're to be taken to a place off plane once they've been captured.
Wait, that who's to be taken off plane?
The party members.
Okay.
That's Liberation, Riot, Mahogany, and Kelian.
So are you just going to wait out here for Saren to arrive and then try to talk your way in the room?
Yeah.
Okay. What are Riot and Nath doing at this moment?
Riot's going back home. Well, yeah. Riot's going back home to lick her wounds.
Hey, what about Nath?
Nath will probably go and rest in Mahogany's shop for a short rest at least.
Okay. Go ahead and Go ahead and both of you
Private
take the benefits of the short rests.
Mm-hmm.
For now, and then we'll worry about more rest after that later.
I didn't take a hit in that entire fight.
I don't have anything. The short rest. I don't have anything that I'm going to get back without a long rest after that. But
You're a wizard.
Wizards get some of their spells back on a short rest.
right. That's what I'm saying. But that's once a day, and after that, there's nothing else. Anything but a long rest would do for me. I get a 5th.
Liberation.
Hey.
You continue to just kind of shoot the shit with these hardheads outside of Mahogany's room. And eventually, the Factal does show up. He's a very tall, muscular man in his late 50s. Has salt and pepper hair under, kind of showing mostly the mutton chops coming down from under his helmet. He has a very regal-looking cloak that he wears draped over his pauldrons. And he's flanked on either side by a contingent of Harmonium, including a young squire, 11 or 12 years old, a hardhead in training, as it were. Comes clanking down the hall. When he sees you, you see his face, which, when he turns around the corner, he looks very, very weary, very tired. And when he sees your face, he just brightens up. And he calls out, says, "My friend Joss, How many years has it been?
Too long, sir. Too long.
It was at Ruby Wharf Crossing we saw each other last, wasn't it?
You know, it's been so long I can't even remember the last time we saw each other.
And he holds out his hand.
I'll approach.
You don't take his hand?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, we'll take his hand.
He gives you a very vigorous handshake. He says, I had heard rumors that you were transferring back for this operation.
Yes, I was.
I'm glad to know it. These are dire times, and we need many good men such as yourself.
Indeed.
And then you see his face kind of retreat back to this weary look, and he says, you'll find that things are less simple here than your station in Arcadia.
Sense motive doesn't exist in 5th edition, but what's its,
Insight.
Insight, yeah.
Insight? Okay. I'm gonna roll insight. Does he know that I'm not, Joss?
You can go ahead and roll if it makes you feel better.
Is he showing it? No, I have no idea if he knows or not. That's only an 8.
No, you have no idea if he knows or not.
Yeah, so I can't get a good read on him. Yeah. And the prisoner that you're scheduled to meet, sir, I have business with him as well.
He says, actually, he looks astonished, almost. So I hadn't heard anything to that regard. What sort of business?
It's actually a sensitive matter, security. I can't speak much more onto that.
You can't talk about it with the fact, Elizabeth.
He says that this is a very difficult needle to thread. That this... he asks what you know about the prisoner, then. He'll put it that way, start there.
All I've heard is some business about 400 souls. I'm not entirely sure what all that's about.
He nods. And he says, and even trickier, he is a well-regarded member of one of the last few factions that treat the Harmonium with any sort of respect in this city.
Who's
He
that?
hasn't heard the news.
That's how ciphers show their respect. By dominating you and making you do what they want, because that's what had to happen.
Because they know it's best.
He says, Joss, perhaps before we enter this interrogation together, you can give me a moment of clarity. It's been a very long time since I've stood in the light of Arcadia, and perhaps my vision of law has been blurred. The law in Sigil states that this man should be turned over to the Mercy Killers and very likely executed. However, we have every indication to believe that he is in fact a good man and can do a lot of good for the city. So here's the question that I pose to you.
Okay.
If I don't turn this man over, I act in the service of good. But if I do turn him over, I act in the service of law. And in this instance, the two are mutually exclusive. And so, my friend, I ask for your counsel. How should I act? Make an insight roll on this.
That is a 13.
You get the very distinct feeling that he's setting you up for a trick question.
Doesn't give me much to go on, but
So what do you say? Let's see, if Saren had the benefit of true sight, he'd be able to tell that you're not Joss Wheaton.
See, I was thinking he might have that up anyway.
Maybe he does, you don't know.
Yeah, that's what makes this so much trickier. I think it comes down to his motives, what his reason for doing the things he did is. If he was just doing things out there in the bazaar just to cause mayhem and general disorder, that would be one thing. But if he's being pushed by some more altruistic purpose, then I think that should be taken into account.
And he glances back at his entourage, who some of them seem somewhat satisfied with your answer. Others seem very uncomfortable by it. But Saren turns and says, "But you've forgotten to ask, my friend, what are the political ramifications of this action?" And he turns to one of the guards. All right, open the door.
You more than all know the political nonsense that is this city.
And the guard opens up the door. Mahogany, there are more hardheads outside of the door than you think you've ever seen in one place.
Am I invited in as well?
And he was just at a riot.
Yeah, I don't know if that's fair. How many hardheads are we talking here?
Probably close to... It's probably a dozen in Saren's entourage, plus the 4 outside your room, plus Liberation dressed up.
This is a really big hallway.
Saren makes a big show about unsheathing his sword and handing it to the side to one of his guardsmen.
I'll do the same.
Relinquishes his cloak to them as well. He asks that 2 guards enter the room unarmed, and he does. He requests that Joss come in with him.
Mm-hmm. I'll relinquish the weapons I'm carrying, but I won't take off my helmet or anything.
No, he doesn't take off his helmet either.
Okay.
And the 4 of them enter the room. And the door closes behind them again. The 2 guards that came in, they just stand stock still by the door. Saren asks his first question. He says, "You're known as Mahogany?"
That's me.
Is that your given name, or is that an alias?
It's my name. It's who I am. It's what I am.
He says that he apologizes for the manacles and the collar, but certain precautions have to be taken with spellcasters. You understand, of course.
Oh, sure. Because I'd be gone.
So you tell him that you'd be
Liberation smirks.
Yeah.
And he introduces Josh Wegman, one of the Harmonium's, and he gives his rank and whatnot. Stationed in Arcadia for some number of years. He speaks very highly of him.
Mahogany knows that it's actually Liberation. Curt nod.
Mahogany does know that this is liberation. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Siren tells you that certain protections are placed on this room to ensure that the things said inside of it can't be heard outside of it.
All right.
Are these two guards from his entourage?
No, these are two of the guards who were previously stationed outside the door that he's now brought inside. His entourage is all waiting for him out.
Okay. I was about to say.
He says that he reached out to your factal of the Transcendent Order some weeks ago, looking for counsel on how to deal with the problems in the Great Bazaar, and that all of his questions fell on deaf ears. So
Are you sure that you weren't just not listening to what she was saying? Did you hear her speech?
He says that Factal Reese did not deign to return any word at all. That she has been silent on this issue.
Well, there's your answer.
Indeed. What were you doing in the bazaar when you were apprehended? What was your role?
When I was apprehended, I was attempting to stop some of your men and a giant mechanical golem from slaughtering weaponless merchants.
And he says that you'll understand he'll accept your answer with a grain of salt, as our ciphers are known to be prone to hyperbole.
I've got a sensory stone in my backpack if you'd like to see.
He asks Joss to go over and remove this stone.
All right, I'll go paw through Mahogany stuff and then until I find that stone. Pull it out.
You find it, you pull it out.
Put it on the table.
There's no table, there's just a bench here.
Oh.
On one
All right.
wall. A candle holder on the opposite wall with a burning candle in it. And as you're handing the stone over to Saren, he asks Mahogany, he says, "And what should I expect to see? Some of my Harmonium officers going too far?"
Some of your officers acting like mercy killers.
He says, attempts to mediate in Sigil are very difficult, especially in those cases where military actions are required. And he takes the sensory stone in hand.
Get out of here.
And he says, if only perhaps some of the senseless violence could have been circumvented if he had the cooperation and guiding hand of the ciphers along with him.
I thought your guiding hand was supposed to be the governors. I didn't see any of them in the march.
He says the governors aren't soldiers. They write the laws. We enforce them. Surely you know
I thought
this.
they were judges. I saw a lot of judging going on out there. I didn't see any of them.
He asks if you know who Twalig Lebivic is.
You don't.
I don't have the pleasure.
He says Rashid Al-Jirari,
Nope.
Danica Clove,
Nope.
Gua Six Axes.
Mahogany will just keep shaking his head.
And he rattles off more and more names like this. And eventually he says, these are people who've been murdered, gone missing, or suffered grievous injury in the Great Bazaar in the past 2 months. And these are the ones that have been brought to our attention. There was no justice for these people. There was no law for these people. They were hurt or killed, had things stolen from them, and they have no recourse. because the Bazaar is a lawless place. I am sympathetic to your views that the Hardheads go too far. That's your name for us, is it not?
It's everyone's name for you. Or the Heads. I've heard a few people call you that. Less derogatory.
But it doesn't surprise you to hear that these injustices have been more rampant since the Indeps took control. It has not, in fact, made Sigil a better place. At least not for these people. Or their lives not worth anything.
Mahogany shrugs, and he says, I can't value the worth of a life, but I've seen murders outside the Bazaar, too, and never saw a sign of a hardhead.
And how would Mahogany solve the problem?
I would have the hardheads go back to doing their jobs.
He turns to Joss. Says, shall we name Mahogany Factal?
And Mahogany will say, no. I'm a cipher, thank you.
Liberation just frowns. Shakes his head.
You are one of the grand heroes that saved the 400 souls.
People call us that.
Let me give you my personal gratitude, then, for the great deeds you've done. For this sigil and for those who were taken off plane. You were able to save many lives. You were able to repair the damage done to many people. Were it not for that, were it not for that story, you would be in the custody of the Red Death now. And you would be in the purvey of Alison Nylesia.
Mahogany's insight is pretty high. I'll just say, but because of that story, it's pretty difficult to execute me.
He says, would it surprise you to learn that his job became more difficult after Nylesia's proclamation?
If your job was becoming that much harder, why didn't you speak out against it?
He looks at Joss, or Liberation, dressed in Joss's skin, and says, how to explain something like that? How to explain to an individual, a free thinker as it were, that institutions of control have to put forth a facade of unity, even if there is disunity. How to explain to a creature of chaos the virtue of law.
Mahogany will shrug and say, sounds like it was easier to do nothing.
He asks what you did to save the life of Rashid Al-Jirari.
And I'll say there were a lot of Rashids out in the marketplace being attacked by a large metal golem, and I put myself in the way of them.
He says he has it on good authority that the golem was contained by magic.
I say that didn't stop at the guards from slaughtering a shopkeep standing in his own shop, not 10 feet below me.
And then he looks back over to Joss. Says, what do you make of this? Actually, he looks back over to Joss and says something in a language that Joss does not understand.
Liberation understands because he has...
Because he's a monk! That's amazing.
Liberation would understand, but he would respond in common.
So what does he say?
Yeah, what does he say?
So here's the question. Even if he can he identify the language?
I think this came up in the last campaign.
I'm
but I
pretty
don't
sure
remember
it
what the ruling
did.
Yeah.
Was.
Like, I can't speak other languages. I can understand what they're saying, and then they can understand what I'm saying. It's
You should
just
let
we're
him make
not-
a check to see if he recognizes the language.
He wouldn't recognize the language. That's an automatic failure.
Okay.
Mahogany might recognize it. I'll let Mahogany make a wisdom check at disadvantage.
Okay.
Liberation would not get to make this check because Liberation doesn't have a history in Sigil that Mahogany does.
No.
No?
That's
Okay.
10.
This could go very badly very quickly. Alright. So what he says to Joss is... At this point, I think it might be prudent to share with Mahogany the confidential information that we both know. And then you respond, how?
Nod.
Just nod?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like a knowing nod.
Sarah looks back at Mahogany and says, the magical shockwave and the summoning of this harmonium golem, as you call it, was not our doing. These weapons are not in use, have not been for many decades, and I don't expect you to, of course, be up on the harmonium charter in Sigil, but use of these types of weapons are totally forbidden inside of the city.
Then why were we the people containing it?
Wait, what was that?
Then why were we the people containing it?
I don't understand that question.
My question is, if he knew that wasn't the harmonium, right? Why were the harmonium acting like it was the harmonium? Why weren't there harmonium fighting against the golem?
He says that several harmonium patrols in the area at the time, and he's, of course, having only heard preliminary reports. He's talking about events that only happened a little over an hour ago.
Right.
That the harmonium patrols in the area met such intense resistance in the form of walls of force and plagues of rats, and he lists off more and more things. Just mass confusion and chaos that none of the patrols were able to step in and engage the golem.
Does he
Except for the patrol that was there, who captured me, of course.
There were 2 patrols there, he corrects you. But none of them were able to get close enough to this golem to do anything about it. It was contained by magic from a third party. Investigation onto who that was is still ongoing. He says, we know it has to be an officer in the harmonium, because if it wasn't, the magic would have been erased.
And Mahogany says, how can you know that for sure? Because I was casting magic, and I'm not a member of the harmonium.
He says, no, but I'll be willing to bet that any spells that you had active at that moment were in fact erased.
And I'll say the bubble went up after that moment. I was there.
Are you sure? He says.
And Mahogany will nod.
He says, how sure?
Certain.
Would you attest to that on pain of death?
Sure.
Then he turns back to Joss.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in this language that nobody in the room understands, says that the man that they're looking for can't have been Hollis Dwath or one of his men. Or at least the evidence isn't as strong as they thought it was earlier.
And I'll nod my head at the sensory stone again. I'll say it's right there, if you want to see it for yourself.
We all know that sensory stone has nothing in it but porn.
Well, listen, it's not Mahogany's fault he's really into golems getting captured.
Sarah's next question to Mahogany is, I mean, first he butters him up a little bit. He says that despite your misgivings about the Harmonium, that he, Saren, believes that you're in a position to be able to do a lot of good for a lot of people in Sigil, to save a lot of lives. But it would mean placing some element of trust in his faction in the short term.
Mahogany will say, in response, that he thinks that all the factions have a purpose in Sigil, and he'd be more happy than anyone if the Harmonium started filling theirs.
He doesn't laugh at you for that, but it's only because he's a very distinguished gentleman. He says that the Harmonium are going to be able to take control of the Bazaar, at least for a short time. And
sure.
that they're going to need to set up regular patrols so the streets there can be made as safe as the ones in the ladies' ward and in the lower ward and other wards that aren't absolutely rampant with crime.
So Mahogany thinks to himself, so not that safe.
He says that he wants to be able to name an interim mediator. Somebody who is not of the Harmonium faction, but who has some strength to speak on their behalf. Someone who is a known face in Sigil, known to be a force for good. Preferably somebody not of one of the, how should we put it, more chaotic factions. I was thinking a cipher.
That's an interesting position.
Does Saren know that? Well, yeah. Has anyone told him that Mahogany owns a shop?
Mahogany doesn't know the answer to that question.
More interesting question is, has anyone looked into Mahogany's tax-paying situation?
That's not the Harmonium. They don't care about taxes. That's not the Harmonium's job. That's a different faction entirely. It's not Saren's job to worry about that. He says, this is a very difficult decision. It's a very precarious political situation because, as a show of good faith, to make the streets of the Bazaar more safe, to allow Harmonium patrols to become welcome again there, as they were, it would be more palatable to the Indepts who were in control of the Bazaar to see a non-Harmonium face in charge of that operation. I think you would do an excellent job in that position. It's clear
Would
that
I
you
actually
have,
be in charge?
to an extent, you would work primarily as a liaison between me personally and the other hardheads in the Bazaar. The difficulty of the situation is political. This could be seen as an official coalition between the Harmonium and the Transcendent Order, which would, in my opinion, go a long way to help this go over well. However, as I've stated, there has been no official stance from your faction on any of these matters in many, many months.
What about the believers of the source?
Ciphers don't put a lot of stock into words. We more tend to just do what needs to be done.
So I have your assurance, then, your word, that if I move forward with this, if I proceed with this, I will not have backlash from the gymnasium.
And Mahogany laughs. Would you like me to ask every other cipher what they feel needs to be done?
Because I only need the word of one particular cipher. Make no mistake, Reese is a politician.
And Mahogany will lean forward a little bit.
Okay.
And he'll say, do you have my word that if I go into the bazaar and I see your men harassing and killing indepts who have committed no crimes, that I'll be able to put a stop to it?
He says he'll do you one better. He says he will let you pick, hand choose, amongst his factioneers, which officers you think would be best to lead these very, very touchy patrols. He'll let you pick the best men for the job and use your discretion.
My pick of anyone in the faction?
Anyone of appropriate rank.
Sounds good to me.
He turns to the guard at the door and instructs them to step forward, release your manacles, and remove the collar, and they do so. He says there's another political difficulty in making this decision. I think it will work best in the long term for Sigil, but in the short term it may cause more blood than less. By letting you go free, by not turning you over to the Mercy Killers, I am in open defiance of Factal Nylesia's proclamations. In effect, I am breaking the law.
I don't think anyone's going to turn you in.
He says that he wishes, that he's envious of your worldview. That you see everything at the level of the table and nothing at the levels above that. That sort of vision is a requirement in my faction. And would that we could run everything at that level. Then he turns back to Joss and asks when he'll be returning to Arcadia.
Never. I need him here.
Cock-a-brow at that.
And Saren asks what you mean by that.
What I heard was that there was one patrol that, above all else, wasn't harming innocents. And I'm sure other people have heard of it too. I'd like the leader of that patrol to be one of the people helping me with my mission in the marketplace.
And he says, well, Joss, it
Clears
appears
his
you have
throat.
your orders.
Aye, aye.
He tells Mahogany that he can head down to the mess if he likes. Partake of a meal and some recuperation, as he will put together an inspection of troops for him.
All right.
He asks if there's particular, if there's any particular magical aid that you'll be using or will require to help make your decision. Any of the staples, detect thoughts, zone of truth, that sort of thing.
Tell him that if it comes up, I'll send for people who can do that then. I don't like to have to worry about having everything on me at the time.